So the thing here that Pasha and I developed is we never make our partner wrong for wanting to try something. And if we try something we didn't like it, great. Then we can sort of make the choice. We're not going to do that thing again because we didn't enjoy it. And maybe that means neither of us get to do it again. But for some of us, we can say, okay, great. I can separate this. I don't ever want to do that thing again. It didn't excite me. It didn't fulfill me. I don't think I was comfortable with it, whatever the case might be. But still saying that your partner could go do it. Welcome back to Open Late Podcast. I'm your host, Jessica Spandiari, and this is our second episode of this week. It's a bonus episode. It's essentially a part 2 to what was released on Wednesday, episode 61, which is all about how to dip your toes into the polyamory pool, how to get started on your non-monogamy journey, how you and your partner or the people that you're dating can navigate this new open road if you're new to it. So I wanted to include some additional sort of tools and tips for you, especially if you have started on this journey now. In the previous episode, I chatted all about sort of resources and education and sort of getting to know and understand yourself, those wants, needs, and desires, seeing if they match up with the partner that you might have, and then get going. So we talked about starting slow, right? Like going to a play party and watching, like having that sort of understanding and that agreement that we're just going to go be voyeurs and just see the sights, or going to bars, flirting with someone and coming home, seeing how that feels. Or if you're uncoupled, like how does it feel to date or be like romantic or intimate with like multiple people at once and like letting them all know about each other. So this is how we start. This is how we start to walk down that line. And I wanted to include more about what happens once you're there, right? So, one of the things that we talked about was the quiz that we created. Now, there is another resource that we have at Open Late that's free, and it is our Open Talks community. Right now, it's essentially a WhatsApp chat where other like minded people who are starting out in non monogamy and starting to practice share their stories, their insights, and ask questions. And a lot of them I will answer right there so that we have a community and everyone can be learning from one another. The reason I'm sharing this is because this is the number one thing that I think supports you once you're actually practicing non-monogamy, is having other people that understand your journey. Because one of the things that was really hard for myself, Pasha and I were private for a super long time, to not have people to talk to about what I was going through, what I was feeling, what was new, even the exciting stuff. Like I wasn't sharing that with a lot of people. Only like my best friend in the whole world knew about it for years. So there's a bit of isolation that happens. And I imagine for so many people, if you don't have the privilege or the ability to be out to your family, to your friends, to your community, to your work, you can start to feel like isolated. And also, what that does is helps us feel unseen, like we're not a part of something bigger. It could help us feel like we're doing something wrong, or, make you feel more like that. So, being a part of a community doesn't have to be this one, but finding other people that are non monogamous or polyamorous, so that you can actually ask questions and feel understood along your journey, because so many new things are going to come up with all of these new experiences and emotions. It's so, so important. So that is a big part of what I wanted to share. So whether it's meeting people on fields and starting to, create friendships, that aren't about romance or, sex, or going to parties together, but even just like going to get coffee, going on a walk, like asking, the dating history of another couple who has recently opened up, and just sort of getting all that insight. Again, it's a lot of talking, but I feel like that's so, so valuable. Another pitfall to avoid, and we sort of mentioned this earlier in the way that I said it's really hard to style match with your partner if you are coupled, right? That's my experience. So Posh and I many times were not interested in the same people. And of course, I'm bisexual or I identify as queer and he doesn't. He's heterosexual. So I could date anybody. He's only interested in dating women. So there's a difference already right there inherently that we're going to be attracted to different types of people, and finding the same type of person or having the exact same style in how we want to date. It's just kind of hard to do. And it's also unreasonable to expect that that would happen if you have a primary partnership. So I want to build on this a little bit from the last episode. This starts to lend itself into a big pitfall, which could be making your partner wrong for you not liking something. And I want to sort of talk about this in the way that I know a lot of people do it. A lot of people feel like, oh, this made me really upset, or it triggered me. And so you might in turn project that your partner did that and that you don't ever want them to do it again because it's so harmful to you, right? Not being able to separate that, like, that's their action and maybe that wasn't their intention, of course, but this is your experience as an emotion. And this gets kind of sticky because on one hand, of course, you want to communicate that this is a trigger and you don't want to cause any further trauma. But also being on this journey means that you're like going to be actively working on things and working towards clearing a lot of that trauma. So how else do we clear it unless we start experiencing things that will bring it up in us so that we can work on it and then get past it, or go through it essentially. So the thing here that Pash and I developed is we never make our partner wrong for wanting to try something. And if we try something we didn't like it, great. Then we can sort of make the choice. We're not going to do that thing again because we didn't enjoy it. And maybe that means neither of us get to do it again. And that's fine if that's what you feel like you need. But for some of us, we could say, okay, great. I can separate this. I don't ever want to do that thing again. It didn't excite me. It didn't fulfill me. I don't think like I was comfortable with it, whatever the case might be. But still saying that your partner could go do it. That's another option, right? But what you want to avoid is making your partner wrong for wanting to try something new. So that first time is just like sampling it, right? It's like you go to a buffet, you've never had this type of, whatever vegan cheese before. You put it on a cracker, you pop it in your mouth. Maybe your partner was like, "You should try this. It's amazing." You try it together and you're like, "I didn't like that at all." You're not going to get upset with your partner for suggesting it, right? Or for them saying, I really want to try this cheese, so let's go try this cheese. That first time warrants like no faults or, punishment. So we want to avoid that because just as we can't really see the future, neither can our partner. So they can't really predict what we're going to like. Or people that we're dating that might not know us very well. So there's that. You never want to make your partner wrong for wanting to try something. Because what will happen too, if you start going down that road, is you're going to be uncomfortable and they're going to be uncomfortable sharing their actual desires, sharing their actual fantasies, because there's going to be fear there of judgment, right? And these relationships are moving towards expansion. They're moving towards more freedom, more full expression of oneself and holding space for your partner to do the same. The next point that I want to go into is, as you start to step into this journey, you're not just a single person anymore, or you're not just two people in a relationship. You're bringing other people either in or, kind of over here. Maybe they're not meeting your partner, right? Maybe the relationships are happening sort of outside of the relationship. But these are, as Jessica Levity calls it, whole ass people. And those people have feelings. They have wants and needs and desires, right? So as you're starting to engage with anyone else other than your partner, you want to take care of them the same way that you do your partner. Now, there are different things here that will come into play, like hierarchical polyamory, and primary partnerships, sort of having like a higher weight or priority to them, right? We try not to have that, but inherently we're a married couple. And so anyone else coming in doesn't have that same privilege. A lot of people call it like, that primary partnership privilege that we have. And we try to treat everyone as equal and give them all of the same sort of abilities and access that we have, sort of inside of our relationship. I'm maybe a bit more fluid in that than Pasha is. He's definitely more like, okay, we're primary partners. And he kind of looks at it like there is a hierarchy there. But when Lauren was in our relationship, it was very much like I wanted him to sort of treat us as equals. And she was such a part of our lives that she was considered in like many major decisions and things like that. So, for many people just starting out, you're not going to be jumping right into the deep end of a triad. But it's important to note, if you're going to have that first threesome, who is this other person? What type of experience do they want as well? Do they want more casual sex, or are they looking to actually date you as a couple? Do they want to be able to sleep over, right? Do they want to be able to spend time with you both individually? Or is this like a package deal only, right? So, really getting clear on, is this a good fit for all three people that are involved? So I think the more that you sort of take care of all the other people that you're going to be bringing into your life and spending a lot of time with, and making sure that it's in line with everything that you want to create and in line with everything they want to create, you're going to have much more success than skipping over those steps of actually finding out, what's this person's motivation? Who are they? And stuff like that. So, if you are up for more like no strings attached, casual sex, we just like want to have a good time, amazing. Because there are so many people out there that want that too. Like, I was just having this conversation the other day with Leanne from Polyphilia. Like, I'm in a place where I just want to like be a unicorn. Like, please, there's so many people on the internet who are like, we don't want to be your unicorn. Bi girls don't want to be like your threesome experience. And I'm like, actually, I do. I would very much like that experience, because I'm in a place where I don't want extra responsibility. And, I'm just looking for like fun and creativity and to like make someone's year, maybe. So just really understanding that if you're not ready to care for a third person as a part of your lives, then communicate that before, first threesome is had, or before you start seeing someone, if you want it to be casual, not realizing that they might want more. This kind of brings me back to the beginning, back to the basics. In the very beginning of Wednesday's episode 61, all about how to navigate dipping your toes into non-monogamy or polyamory, right? What are the first steps? How do we start doing it? I talked to you about getting clear on what you want out of it. What are your wants, needs, and desires? Do that relationship audit, right? And I want you to revisit that. So, having strong points in the relationship for check ins and making sure that everything is still in alignment and on the same page. Because now that you're on this journey and you're going about it, maybe you're dating, maybe it's been 6 months, maybe it's been a year, maybe you've had a couple of experiences, and it's time to sort of regroup and assess. Is this filling the kind of wants, needs, and desires? Is it fulfilling these needs that we had? Do we want to pivot? Do we feel ready for more? Do we feel ready for something else? Because you don't have to trudge ahead. If you find something that you like and that works, you might sort of stay monogamish for a while. Maybe you can reassess and say, okay, are we ready for more? Do we want to have more fully open experiences where we don't have to tell each other before it happens, or it doesn't have to be premeditated, but it can be more spontaneous? That was our evolution. And then we became fully open, without the need to sort of like prepare and plan and have permission and things like that. So as you're going along, it's coming back around. It's checking in. Are we doing this from a place where it's generating energy in our relationship? That was always a big check-in for Pasha and I. Is this adding to our connection with each other? Which for us was a real thing. If I would go date somebody else outside of, my relationship with Pasha, a man that he never met for years, that I would spend time with, I would come back and my connection with Pasha would deepen every time, because you can actually appreciate, because there is a difference. You can really appreciate what you have when you experience something totally different. Doesn't make one better than the other, you know? It actually makes them both unique and special. But because there's contrast, you can see it. And so for us, it was that check in of like, cool, are the people that I'm dating or spending time with adding even to our relationship, even though they've never met and they might never meet? So is it generative? Are we sort of meeting our goals? Are we still using our North Star, right, of our relationship, like our guidance system? And if not, cool. Where do we need to reassess? So I recommend putting checkpoints even on the calendar. Maybe it's twice a year. And as you go about this journey over time, maybe you're using like different tools in the beginning and different tools in the middle, but circling back around, and know that you always have these episodes here for you as a resource. Especially if you're solo poly, or if you're, uncoupled right now and you want to try out non-monogamy. You might use different sort of sets of these skills or tools with different partners as you're dating. So come back to it. It's always here for you. Reach out to me. Let me know if there's anything that I left out of this episode, that you have a question about. As I'm sure I did, right? This is the first of probably many of these. So I really do love when you rate and review the show on Apple. You can even use the Apple reviews as a way to tell me what you want to hear more of, to ask questions. I'll answer them on these episodes. So don't hesitate to do that. And of course, make sure you're following us on Instagram and TikTok. We do a lot of really fun, funny, and educational content in those spaces. And I will link all the resources that I always talk about in the show notes. But I think one of the most valuable ones for you, if you're already in this journey, is going to be our group. It's a free WhatsApp group called Open Talks. And it's a way to feel like you are a part of the community and like you're not the only person in the world, or maybe in your town, right? That is dipping your toes into the polyamory pool. So with that, I will leave you. I love you all and appreciate you so, so much. And I will see you next week.